There is life beyond adulthood. We, as human beings, are meant to outgrow adulthood and leave it behind. We know this when we talk about childhood. It's obvious to us that we're supposed to be children, and then we're supposed to put away the things of childhood, and then we're supposed to speak like men and women, and we know all about that. But there's life beyond adulthood. And one of the cruelest twists of our contemporary culture is telling older people that they will be measured by the yardstick of adulthood. And the only good older person is the older person who walks and talks and looks like a younger person. And that the only sign of success that you can have is to not change. Since when is not changing and growing associated with success? In fact, we reinforce this with a brutal, ugly 5-letter word, still. You know how it works. Oh yeah, my Uncle Fred, poof, wow, it's amazing, and he's 86, and he drives. Yeah, I'm telling you, he's got it. Oh, my grandfather, yeah, he's amazing. Oh, geez, he's 92, and he works. Yeah, well, you know what? My great-uncle Fred, he just got back from climbing K2. And he's right here in St. Augustine now for the winter. You don't want to know why? Because he likes to water ski. Barefoot. In the nude. Now there's an older person. So, if you applied the same weird, still language to children, they would probably lock you up. Oh, my son, he's 16, he wears diapers. I'm hoping for him. Keep it going, son. You know, we expect people who live 20, 30, 40 years to change. Except in this weird American vision of aging that says that the only good old person is an old person who's like a young person. What's happened is millions of older people feel trapped in late adulthood. And older people are compelled to play a game they must, by necessity, lose. If I'm going to be measured 50 years from now by the standards of adulthood, I am going to fail. It's impossible to maintain a standard of performance and energy and drive and accomplishment in late old age that is typical of middle adulthood. Do you see what I'm saying? So here's why life beyond adulthood is so important to every person in this room. If you get to outgrow adulthood, you get to stand in the world, to be in the world as an elder of your people. And you get to stand there as a person who's living in elderhood and should be evaluated and judged by the standards of elderhood. Look at what would happen to adults if we measured adults by the standards of childhood. If I'm a physician, if I did this, if I brought an adult into my office and I did a pediatric evaluation on them, I'm telling you, they're really messed up. If you measure adults by the standards of childhood, the first thing you know, their heads are not growing. That's bad. They're getting shorter, not taller. In fact, if you use those yardsticks, you would hospitalize a child who had the same measurements as a normal adult. It's the same way in elderhood. If you use the yardstick of adulthood and apply it to older people, they look terrible. If you take the yardstick of elderhood and apply it to older people, you see a vast, rich, deep experience of human growth. We are all elders in the making. From the youngest person in this room to the oldest person in this room, our developmental destination is not adulthood, it's elderhood. Now, what does it mean to be an elder? And I'm shocked and saddened that I have to ask that question. Heavens to Murgatroyd. How can it be that I would have to ask, what does it mean to be an elder of a human community? But I do have to ask. The first thing that elderhood has in abundance compared to adulthood and childhood is access to wisdom. Now, I'm a geriatrician, right? So the number one thing that a geriatrician knows is that there is no fool like an old fool. And if you practice geriatric medicine, wow, you will meet a lot of old fools. I'm telling you. However, if I took this room, and if down the hall I had a similar room full of college students, and I was in pursuit of wisdom, which room would I go into? Oh, yes. Yes. There are things that you can know only by living a long time. And wisdom is often confused in our culture with other things. And I'll tell you what wisdom really is. You can ask yourself if you have some. Wisdom is insight into the problems of everyday life. I'll give you an example. Your favorite granddaughter, she's all grown up. She comes to see you with this new boy. He walks in and you're like, this is going to end badly. The first part of the wisdom is, you know this boy. You knew him in 1953, and he has not changed. You even understand why she's in love with him. And even more than that, you understand that cutting him down and bad-mouthing him is not going to change a thing. So you give them cookies. And she waves from the car as they drive away. Your heart's a little heavy, but this is life. It's wisdom. When she comes back 2 years later, and her mascara's running, she's crying, and her eyes are puffy, and you put your arms around her, and you tell her it will be okay. That is wisdom. And you can't get it out of a textbook or a website. You have to live. The second great thing about human elders that has been true for thousands of years is that human elders have a gift of something called legacy. And 500 years ago, a writer defined legacy as the reason why I was put into this world. And the longer you live, And the more you experience, the more likely you are to gradually understand who you are and why you are here. That takes a lifetime to understand. If you have anybody in here has experience with people in their 20s, no offense to people in their 20s, they're not even close to figuring this out. Okay? An entire life can be summarized or boiled down into just a few truths. What are the truths that your life has given you? And what has made human society work so well for so long is that these distilled truths have been passed from one generation to the next. Looking at this audience, I'm willing to, I actually know for a fact, there are many people in this audience who learned some of the most important things about how to live from your elders, grandparents and older friends and relatives when you were growing up. Okay? I recently gave a talk, actually at Cornell. I had about 40 Cornell students in the room. I asked them, how many of you grew up having daily contact or regular contact with a grandparent? 0 people raised their hand. Think about that for a minute. 0 out of 40. These younger people had grown up without that kind of calm voice that was able to lead the family in a different way. Now, I'm of an age where I did have close contact with my grandparents, and I had both grandparents alive while I was growing up. My mother's father was a truck driver, and in the family, he had the nickname, the lawyer. And some of you might have a similar experience. When, let's say, a grandson maybe got in trouble at school, it could happen. I would get grounded or something. And then he had an old Rambler, the Rambler car. The Rambler would pull into the driveway. I would be sent upstairs, and the lawyer would go to work. And usually my sentence was reduced. And he would say things like, you know, Billy's okay, he's going to do all right, don't be so hard on him. He was speaking a truth that only age could make available to him. Finally, and this is very, very important in the time we live at, elders around the world and through history have long functioned as peacemakers. You see, adulthood is a terrible fever that lasts for 40 years. And people in the height of that fever can do terrible things. And humanity, for a long, long time, has had elders to make peace where the adults would not. In fact, I would argue one of the reasons American society feels so askew and out of order is that we're being governed by adults without elder supervision. Adults, I love them, I am one, but they are crazy. Adults in the early 21st century America are especially crazy. They're losing their minds. They work too hard. They're hyperactive. They're hyper-caffeinated. They're all about doing, and they're forgetting about being. And in the history of humanity, it has always been the elders of the people who have been able to restrain the worst excesses of adults and adulthood. Elders have made peace in families. You want to know how I know this? When you're a geriatrician, you get to see it. Many are the people I have cared for who in their dying days have called their family together and brokered peace in the family. How do I know? Because I've seen it. Around the world and through history, many are the elders who've stopped wars, stopped conflict, stopped fighting. Because as elders, they understand the futility of all of that. It's not about them anymore. They'll be gone soon enough. It's about the next generation and the next. It's about the generation they will never live to see. So think about this for a minute, please. If you go to the store and you look at the magazine rack, there's a lot of very freaky looking, very young people on the covers of those magazines. And I'm just telling you, they're not right. If you turn on the television, same thing. Elders are vital to the health of a family, vital to the health of a community, and without them, we lose our bearings. So, you know how I started by saying, what are old people for? I think it's only fair I give you my answer. The answer is, elders are the glue that hold us together. Without our elders, we fall apart. Again, there's people in this room who've seen this happen. The matriarch, patriarch of the family pass on. And you know, all those Sundays at great-grandma's, the family drifts apart. It doesn't happen anymore. That elder was glue, human glue, that held generations together. We do not need a nation of overgrown adults living deep in denial. That is the last thing we need. We need authentic human beings, real elders who have said, adulthood, I did that. I'm kind of glad it's over. I'm an elder now. I will live the rest of my life as an elder. I will be an elder of my people. Back to Kathy's comment. Can an elder fix everything that's wrong with us? No. Can an elder fix something? Yes. We live in a world that is terribly broken. Can elders help repair the world? Tikkun olam? Yes. Do we need elders among us, with us, around us, as children and adults? Yes. So the future of aging and the future of old age in America is vitally important. We are living in a time where we need and we must have a generation of elders bigger and more influential and more confident and more engaged than ever before. And I came here today, in part, to talk about that very thing. Now, what I would like to do in honor of the elders in the room and the friends and the companions of the elders, I would like to do a question and answer period where I'm going to ask people to write down a question that you have for me. Any question. Any question you think I might be able to give an answer to. In about 5 or 6 minutes, we're going to collect the questions, and I'm going to go through them really pretty fast to try to get a feeling for what you guys are thinking about. Okay? So somebody has a pen at the table, you got some paper, you can scribble it on a sheet of paper. Do your best. You can share paper between tables if you need to. Whatever works.
Any paper in there? I don't really. Yeah.